1 year ago, I ordered additional troops to serve in this country that was the staging ground for the 9/11 attacks. All of those troops are now in place, and thanks to your service, we are making important progress. You are protecting your country. You're achieving your objectives. You will succeed in your mission. Now, I don't need to tell you this is a tough fight. I just came from the medical unit and saw our wounded warriors, pinned some Purple Hearts. I just talked to the platoon that lost six of their buddies in a senseless act of violence. This is tough business. Progress comes slow. There are going to be difficult days ahead. Progress comes at a high price. Forward to a new phase next year, the beginning of a transition to Afghan responsibility. As we do, we continue to forge a partnership with the Afghan people for the long term. And we will never let this country serve as a safe haven for terrorists who would attack the United States of America again. That will never happen. This part of the world is the center of a global effort where we are going to disrupt and dismantle and defeat al-Qaeda and its extremist allies, and that's why you're here. That's why your mission matters so much. That's why you must succeed, because this effort is about the safety of our communities back home and the dignity of the Afghan people who don't want to live in tyranny. I just finished signing a strategic partnership agreement with Afghanistan that signals the transition in which we are going to be turning over responsibility for Afghan security to the Afghans. We're not going to do it overnight. We're not going to do it irresponsibly. We're going to make sure that the gains, the hard-fought gains that have been made, are preserved. And because of the sacrifices now of a decade and a new greatest generation, not only were we able to blunt the Taliban momentum, not only were we able to drive al-Qaeda out of Afghanistan, but slowly and systematically we have been able to decimate the ranks of al-Qaeda. And I want you to understand, I know it's still tough. I know the battle's not yet over. Some of your buddies are going to get injured, and some of your buddies may get killed. After more than a decade of war, we're at a pivotal moment. Last year marked a major milestone. For the first time, Afghan forces took the lead to secure their own country. And today, you're in a support role, helping to train and assist Afghan forces. For many of you, this will be your last tour in Afghanistan. And by the end of this year, the transition will be complete, and Afghans will take full responsibility for their security, and our combat mission will be over. America's war in Afghanistan will come to a responsible end. And today, every single one of you, everybody who has served here, and all the members of our coalition can be proud because you are completing our mission. You're completing the mission. We said that we were going to deny al-Qaeda safe haven. And since then, we have decimated the al-Qaeda's leadership in the tribal regions. And our troops here at Bagram have played a central role in supporting our counterterrorism operations. Along with our intelligence personnel, you've helped prevent attacks and save American lives back home. Al-Qaeda is on its heels in this part of the world, and that's because of you. We said that we were going to reverse the Taliban's momentum. And so you went on the offensive, driving the Taliban out of its strongholds. Look, everybody knows Afghanistan's still a very dangerous place. Insurgents still launch cowardly attacks against innocent civilians. But just look at the progress that you've made possible. Afghans reclaiming their communities and more girls returning to school. Dramatic improvements in public health and life expectancy and literacy. That's your legacy. That's what you did. Even with all the challenges, more Afghans have hope for their future, and so much of that is because of you. We said that we were going to strengthen the capacity of Afghan forces so they could take more responsibility for their own security. So you've been training Afghan forces and building Afghan forces up. And we know they've still got a long way to go, but for nearly a year, Afghans have been in the lead, and they're making enormous sacrifices. You look at the casualties they're taking on. They are willing to fight. Afghan forces are growing stronger. Afghans are proud to be defending their own country. And that, again, so much of that is because of you. Think about last month's election. Despite all the threats from the Taliban, the Afghan people refused to be terrorized. They registered to vote. Afghan security forces secured thousands of polling places. Then millions of Afghans lined up to cast their ballot. And next month's runoff will be another step toward the first democratic transfer of power in the history of this nation. Now, even as our combat mission ends later this year, I want everybody to know, in this country and across the region, America's commitment to the people of Afghanistan will endure. With our strategic partnership, we'll continue to stand with Afghans as they strengthen their institutions, as they build their economy, as they improve their lives, men and women and boys and girls. And I've made it clear that we're prepared to continue cooperating with our Afghan partners on 2 security missions, training and equipping Afghan forces and targeting counterterrorism targets against al-Qaeda. Because after all the sacrifices we've made, we want to preserve the gains that you have helped to win. And we're going to make sure that Afghanistan can never again, ever, be used again to launch an attack against our country.
But if Afghanistan is unable to mount any real resistance to the Taliban now, there is no chance that 1 year, 1 more year, 5 more years, or 20 more years of U.S. military boots on the ground would have made any difference. This did unfold more quickly than we had anticipated. So what's happened? Afghanistan political leaders gave up and fled the country. The Afghan military collapsed, sometime without trying to fight. If anything, the developments of the past week reinforced that ending U.S. military involvement in Afghanistan now was the right decision.